The Suitcase and the Secret. Lena sat cross-legged on the floor of her small apartment in Lisbon. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon, and the gray sky outside seemed to mirror the heaviness she felt inside. Her job at the cafe had ended early due to the bad weather. One word at a time. Lena woke up early the next morning, before the sun had even touched the rooftops of Lisbon. The apartment was still dark, and the only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. But her mind was awake, alive with thoughts and questions. She reached for the journal her grandmother had left, the one that now felt like a map to a new version of herself. She opened it slowly, flipping through the first few pages. Each one had a small sentence in English, followed by a short paragraph written with care and emotion. I believed I couldn't until I proved myself wrong. Mistakes are part of the journey. Don't be afraid to sound silly. The day I spoke English to a stranger and they understood me, I cried. Lena smiled. She could feel her grandmother's presence in every word. It was as if Isabel was sitting next to her, cheering her on. She got dressed and made herself a cup of coffee, strong, dark, and exactly how she liked it. Then she sat by the window with her notebook, opened her new English learning app, and began her first lesson. The app started with simple words. Hello.
Goodbye.
Please. Thank you. She repeated each word out loud, her accent heavy, but her voice steady. Hello. Thank you. She felt a little silly at first, but also proud. She was doing it. She was learning. She looked up a few more words on her own and added them to her notebook. Dream. Journey. Strong.
Voice.
Every word felt like a step forward. Later that morning, she left for work. The cafe was already busy when she arrived. The smell of fresh pastries and espresso filled the air. Her manager, João, handed her the apron with a tired smile. Another long day, Lena, he said. We have a big group of tourists coming. She nodded. I'm ready. But inside, she felt nervous. Tourists always meant English, and English meant pressure. What if they asked her something she didn't understand? What if she panicked and froze? At exactly 10 a.m., a group of Americans walked in. They looked happy, chatting and laughing in fast English. Lena took a deep breath and approached the first table with a small, polite smile. Good morning, she said in English. Her heart pounded in her chest. One of the women smiled back. Good morning. Do you speak English? Lena paused. Then she said, slowly, I am learning. The woman smiled even wider. That's great. You're doing really well. Lena felt a wave of relief wash over her. The woman spoke slowly, kindly. They ordered coffee and pastries, and Lena managed to understand most of it. When she brought the tray to their table, the woman gave her a thumbs up. You're brave, she said. Learning a new language is not easy. Lena nodded, smiling. But important. The woman laughed gently.
Yes.
Very important. When the group left, Lena felt something new blooming in her chest. Confidence. She had faced her fear. She had spoken and she had been understood. That simple exchange meant more to her than anyone could know. That night, back at home, she opened the journal again. On a fresh page, she wrote in English. Today I spoke. I was afraid, but I spoke. She drew a little heart next to the sentence. Then she whispered a new word she had learned that day.
Brave.
She repeated it again and again, until the word didn't feel foreign anymore. Brave.
Brave. Brave.
And just before falling asleep, she added another sentence to her notebook, her new personal rule. One word at a time. One day at a time. Never stop. The English Club. The following week, Lena kept her promise to herself. Every morning before work, she practiced a few words. She spoke them out loud while brushing her teeth. She wrote short sentences in her notebook while riding the tram. And when she heard English at the cafe, she didn't run from it. She leaned in and listened closely. But by Friday, the motivation started to fade a little. She felt tired. The cafe had been extra busy, and she was beginning to doubt herself. What if I never get good enough? What if it's too late for me? What if I'm just not smart enough to learn a new language? She closed her eyes, remembering her grandmother's letter. Start with one word and never stop. That night, after closing the cafe, she sat in the back room to rest for a moment. She opened her phone and searched free English lessons in Lisbon. Most results were expensive schools or long online courses. But just as she was about to give up, one small message caught her eye. English Conversation Club, every Saturday at 5 p.m. in Alfama. Free, friendly, open to beginners. Come practice with us. Smiley face. Her heart jumped. A club? Talking to people? Out loud? In public? It terrified her. But also, it excited her. The next day, at exactly 4:45 p.m., Lena stood in front of a little bookstore cafe hidden in a quiet corner of Alfama. Her hands were sweating. She almost turned around twice. This was a mistake, she thought. I can't do this. I'll embarrass myself. But then she remembered the words she wrote in her notebook just a few days ago.
Brave.
She took a breath and walked in. There were about 10 people sitting around a long wooden table, smiling, chatting, some fluent, some clearly nervous like her. At the head of the table sat a woman with bright eyes and a kind smile. She stood up and waved. Hi. You must be new. I'm Emma. Lena smiled shyly. Yes, I'm Lena. I learning English. Emma smiled even more. That's perfect. You're in the right place. They sat down and the group began a small game to introduce themselves. Name, country, one hobby. Hello, my name is Lena. I am from Portugal. I like books. The group clapped for her. Just for that small sentence. She felt like crying, not from sadness, but from relief. She wasn't alone. There were people from Brazil, Italy, Turkey, Morocco. Some spoke slowly, others made grammar mistakes. But no one laughed. No one corrected harshly. They encouraged each other, helped with words, shared tips. Lena left the club that evening with a full heart and a new friend, Sophia, a woman from Argentina who had moved to Lisbon 6 months earlier. Sophia's English wasn't perfect either, but she was brave too. As they walked together to the metro, Sophia turned to Lena and said, You know, it's not about being perfect. It's about being proud. We are learning a new language. That's already a big deal. That night, back in her apartment, Lena wrote in her journal, Today I joined an English club. I spoke. I listened. I was afraid. But I didn't run. I am stronger than my fear. Then she underlined a new word.
Proud.
She whispered it 3 times before going to sleep.
Proud. Proud.
Proud. And for the first time in a long time, she felt it. The challenge. 2 weeks passed since Lena joined the English Conversation Club, and every Saturday became her favorite part of the week. She was learning more words, gaining confidence, and even dreaming in English sometimes. But real life was never simple. One busy Tuesday afternoon at the cafe, Lena was wiping tables when the manager, João, called her over. His face looked serious. Lena, he said, we have a special client coming today. An important business person from London. He only speaks English. I need you to take care of him. Lena's heart stopped.
Me?
She thought. I'm not ready for this. She wanted to say no, to hide behind counter, but João looked at her with trust. I believe you can do this, he said. Just do your best. The client arrived 30 minutes later. He was a tall man in a dark suit, carrying a briefcase. He smiled politely, but spoke quickly. Good afternoon. I'd like a coffee, please. Black. And some information about local pastries. Lena took a deep breath. She remembered the words she had learned, the courage she had found. She smiled. Hello, sir. I help you, she said, slowly but clearly. The man nodded, appreciative. She pointed to the pastries behind the glass. These are pastéis de nata, she said, trying the Portuguese name, sweet custard tarts. Very famous here. He smiled. Thank you. That sounds delicious. The man asked more questions and Lena answered as best as she could. Sometimes she used her phone to translate a word. Sometimes she paused to think. The man was patient and kind. When she brought his order to the table, he said, You speak English very well. Lena blushed. Thank you. I'll learning. He nodded. Keep learning. It opens many doors. After the man left, Joao came over. You did great, he said. I'm proud of you. Lena felt a rush of happiness and pride. She knew she still had a long way to go, but this moment was proof. She was growing, step by step. That night, Lena wrote in her journal, Today I helped a client in English. I was scared, but I tried.
And it was enough.
She added a new word in big letters. Enough. She whispered it slowly before sleeping. Enough. 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 She knew learning a language was not about being perfect. It was about trying, growing, and believing she was enough just as she was, facing the unexpected. After the conference in Porto, Lena felt stronger than ever. She had proven to herself that she could communicate in English, even in a professional environment. But life, as always, had new surprises waiting for her. Back in Lisbon, the cafe was busier than ever. Tourism was growing, and more international customers arrived every day. Lena was now the main person Joao trusted to help English-speaking clients. One rainy afternoon, a family from the United States came in. 2 parents, their young daughter, and an elderly grandmother. The little girl looked nervous and shy, holding tightly to her mother's hand. Lena greeted them warmly. Hello. Welcome. The mother smiled. Thank you. We just arrived. Can you help us? Lena nodded. Yes, of course. What do you need? The family wanted to order drinks and pastries, but the grandmother had a medical condition and needed immediate advice about nearby pharmacies and hospitals. The mother looked worried. Lena's heart beat faster. This was not a simple order, it was a real challenge. She didn't know all the medical words in English, and she could feel the pressure. But then she remembered something Emma had said at the club. When you don't know a word, use simple words to explain. Lena took a deep breath. There's a pharmacy near here, she said slowly. You can buy medicine. And hospital, big place for sick people. Open 24 hours. The mother listened carefully, nodding. The grandmother smiled weakly. Thank you. Lena helped the family order their drinks and pastries, then wrote down the pharmacy address for them. She even called a local pharmacy to confirm the opening hours. After they left, the mother came back to Lena. You helped us a lot. Thank you. You speak English very well. Lena smiled, feeling a warmth that filled her chest. That night, Lena wrote in her journal, Today I helped a family. I was scared, but I found a way. English is not just words. It is connection. She circled a new word in her notebook. Connection. She whispered it slowly 3 times before going to sleep. Connection. 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 Lena realized that learning English was not just about grammar or vocabulary. It was about opening doors to new people, new cultures, and new experiences, and about having the courage to face the unexpected. The presentation. The weeks passed quickly, and Lena continued to grow in her English skills. She felt more comfortable speaking, listening, and even dreaming in English. But the next challenge was bigger than anything she had faced before. One morning, Joao called her into the office. Lena, he said, the cafe is hosting a small event next week for tourists and local business owners. We want you to give a short presentation in English about our city, the cafe, and the famous pastries. You will have about 10 minutes. Can you do it? Lena's heart pounded. A presentation? In English? In front of a group? Her stomach tightened with nerves. I will try, she said quietly. That night, Lena sat at her kitchen table with her notebook and laptop. She wrote down ideas, practiced pronunciation, and recorded herself speaking. Sometimes she stumbled over words and phrases. Sometimes she wanted to give up. But then she remembered all the moments that brought her here. The English club, the client from London, the family from America, the conference in Porto. All the small victories and words she had learned. She repeated a sentence over and over. I can do this. The day of the presentation arrived. The cafe was decorated with colorful lights and small flags from different countries. Tourists, locals, and business people filled the room. Lena stepped to the front, holding her notes. Her hands trembled, but she smiled. "Hello, everyone," she began. "My name is Lena. I am from Lisbon. Today, I want to tell you about my city and our special pastries." She spoke slowly, clearly, using simple words she had practiced. She showed pictures of the city, described the history of the cafe, and explained how pastéis de nata are made. The audience listened attentively, smiled, and applauded. When Lena finished, João came over, smiling broadly. "You were amazing," he said. "I'm proud of you." Lena felt tears of joy in her eyes. She had done it. She had faced her fear and spoken English in front of many people. That night, she wrote in her journal, "I gave a presentation in English. I was scared, but I did it. Every word I learned was a step forward." She underlined a new word, courage, and whispered it before sleep. Courage, courage, courage. Lena knew her journey was far from over, but now she believed in herself more than ever. Learning English was not just a goal, it was a path to courage, freedom, and endless possibilities. New friends and new dreams. After her successful presentation, Lena felt a new energy inside her. People at the cafe and the English club started to notice her progress. She was no longer just a shy learner. She was becoming a confident woman ready to embrace her future. One sunny afternoon, Lena was at the English Conversation Club when a new face appeared. His name was Daniel, a young man from Canada who had recently moved to Lisbon to work as a photographer. He spoke English fluently, but was learning Portuguese. "Hi, I'm Daniel," he said with a warm smile. "I heard this club was the best place to practice languages." Lena smiled back. "Yes, it is a great place to learn. Welcome." Over the next weeks, Lena and Daniel sat together at the club. She helped him with Portuguese words, and he helped her with English pronunciation and new expressions. One evening, after the club meeting, they walked along the river in Lisbon, talking about their dreams. Daniel shared his love for photography and how he wanted to travel the world capturing beautiful stories. Lena opened up too. "My dream is to open my own cafe one day," she said softly. "A place where people from all over can come, speak different languages, and feel at home." Daniel looked at her with admiration. "That's a wonderful dream," he said. "And your English will help you make it real. You're already doing amazing." Lena felt her cheeks warm. She realized that learning English had done more than open doors. It had brought new friends, new hopes, and maybe something more. That night, Lena wrote in her journal, "I met Daniel. We share dreams and help each other learn. English is the bridge that connects us." She circled 3 words in her notebook: friendship, dreams, hope. She whispered them softly before falling asleep. Friendship, dreams, hope. For Lena, the journey of learning English was no longer just about words or work. It was about life, new friendships, new possibilities, and a heart full of hope for the future. A test of dreams. Spring was blossoming in Lisbon, and Lena and Daniel's friendship was growing stronger. They spent many afternoons exploring the city, practicing languages, and sharing stories. One day, Daniel surprised Lena with an idea. "Lena," he said excitedly, "what if we create a photo project about your cafe dream? We can show the beauty of Lisbon, the pastries, the people, all in English and Portuguese. It could be online and maybe attract visitors and customers." Lena's eyes sparkled. "That sounds amazing. But I don't know if I'm ready, and I don't have money for that." Daniel smiled. "We can start small. I will take photos. You can write simple English and Portuguese texts. Together, we'll make it happen." They started working on the project every weekend. Daniel took beautiful photos of the city, the river, the pastries, and Lena practicing English and Portuguese. But just as their dream began to take shape, Lena faced a new challenge. The cafe owner João announced that the business was struggling because of new competition. He might have to close the cafe soon. Lena felt a cold wave of fear. Her dream, her future, seemed to be slipping away. That night, she told Daniel about the problem. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice trembling. "If the cafe closes, my dream ends." Daniel looked at her firmly. Lena, you have courage. You learned English. You faced many challenges. This is another one. We will find a way. Remember, dreams need hard work and hope. Lena nodded, feeling stronger with Daniel's support. Together, they decided to use their photo project to help Joao's cafe. They shared it online, wrote about the cafe's story in English and Portuguese, and invited people to visit. Slowly, the cafe's visitors increased. Tourists from different countries found the project and came to taste the pastries and enjoy the friendly atmosphere. Joao smiled and said, "Lena, you saved us." Lena smiled back, feeling proud and hopeful. She wrote in her journal, "Dreams are not easy. They need courage, friendship, and action. English opened a new door, and I walked through it." She underlined a new word, resilience. She whispered it before sleep. Resilience, resilience, resilience. Lena knew the road ahead would still have challenges, but she was ready, with English, with Daniel, and with her heart full of dreams. Dreams realized. Months passed since Lena and Daniel started their photo project. The cafe, once struggling, was now a lively place filled with smiles, conversations, and the aroma of fresh pastries. Tourists from around the world came not only for the delicious pastéis de nata, but also to experience the warm atmosphere Lena helped create. Joao often said, "Lena, you brought magic to this place. Your English and your courage changed everything." Lena smiled, remembering how far she had come. From a shy woman with little confidence in her English, she had grown into a leader, a communicator, and a dreamer. One sunny afternoon, Lena stood at the cafe's entrance, welcoming a group of international guests. She spoke clearly and confidently in English, sharing stories about Lisbon and the cafe's history. After the tour, Daniel joined her, holding his camera. "I have one more idea," he said with a smile. "Let's create a small English course here at the cafe for locals and tourists. It will be fun and help even more people connect." Lena's eyes lit up. "That's perfect. English brought me here, and now it can bring others too." Together, they organized weekly English classes, combining conversation practice with cultural exchange and, of course, plenty of delicious pastries. Lena's journal was full of new words and stories. One phrase stood out. "Learning a new language is learning a new life." She often repeated it to herself, feeling grateful. Her grandmother's suitcase sat on a shelf in the cafe, a symbol of beginnings and endless possibilities. Lena whispered softly, "Thank you, Grandma, for teaching me that one word is the start of everything." Her journey with English was just beginning, a path full of friendship, courage, resilience, and dreams realized. And she knew that with every new word, every new conversation, she was writing her own story, one filled with hope and endless horizons. New horizons and unexpected opportunities. The cafe was thriving like never before. Lena and Daniel's idea of combining the cozy atmosphere with English classes had become a huge success. Every week, locals and tourists gathered in the little room beside the cafe, eager to learn English and share stories. Lena loved seeing the smiles of her students as they practiced new words and phrases. She was proud that her dream was not only alive, but helping others to chase their own. One afternoon, as Lena was preparing for a class, her phone rang. It was an email notification, but when she saw the sender, she almost dropped her cup of coffee. It was from a publisher in London. They had seen Daniel's photo project online and were interested in creating a bilingual book about Lena's journey, the cafe, and the city of Lisbon. The book would be written in English and Portuguese, aimed at learners like Lena. Lena's heart raced with excitement and nervousness. This was a huge opportunity, but also a huge challenge. She called Daniel immediately. "We got a chance to write a book," she said, barely able to contain her joy. "But I don't know if my English is good enough." Daniel smiled reassuringly. "Lena, look how far you've come. Remember your courage and resilience. This book can be a way to inspire others, and we'll do it together." Over the next months, Lena worked harder than ever. She woke up early to write chapters, practiced new vocabulary every day, and attended online courses to improve her grammar and style. Daniel took photos, designed layouts, and helped translate the texts. Sometimes, the work felt overwhelming. There were moments when she doubted herself, feeling tired and frustrated. One evening, after a long day, Lena sat by the window watching the sun set over the river. She whispered softly, "Learning English is not just about words. It's about patience, hard work, and believing in myself." She took a deep breath and smiled. "I can do this." Meanwhile, the English classes at the cafe continued to grow. Some students shared their own stories of struggle and hope, and Lena felt connected to a wider community of learners. The day the publisher accepted the final manuscript was one Lena would never forget. She held the printed book in her hands, a beautiful symbol of her journey. The book was called One Word, One Dream, A Journey Through Language and Life. At the launch event in Lisbon, people from all over came to celebrate. Lena spoke in English about her story, the power of learning a new language, and the importance of never giving up. She saw tears, smiles, and heard applause. She felt a deep gratitude for her grandmother, for Daniel, for João, and for every small step she had taken. Her dream had grown beyond what she had imagined. She wrote in her journal that night, "Learning English opened my world. It gave me new friends, new dreams, and new strength. Every word I learned was a step toward becoming myself." She circled 3 powerful words in her notebook: believe, persevere, inspire. Before sleeping, she whispered, "Believe, persevere, inspire." Lena knew that the journey was endless, but now she was ready for every new challenge, because with English, she held the key to a world full of opportunities and hope. New doors and bright futures. After the successful launch of One Word, One Dream, Lena's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. The book attracted attention not only in Lisbon but also abroad. Messages from readers came pouring in, people inspired by her story, eager to learn English, and thankful for her courage. One morning, Lena woke up to an email from a university in London. They invited her to speak at an international conference about language learning and cultural exchange. It was a huge honor, but also a big challenge. She remembered her first days struggling with English, the fear of speaking, the mistakes, and the small victories. "I can do this," she told herself firmly. With Daniel's help, Lena prepared her speech, practicing every day. They worked on pronunciation, expressions, and even some jokes to make the talk engaging. The day of the conference arrived. Lena stood on the stage in front of hundreds of people from all over the world. She spoke about her journey, the importance of learning new languages, and how English had opened doors to friendship, work, and dreams. Her words touched many hearts. After the speech, people came to thank her, share their own stories, and ask for advice. Among the crowd was a representative from a major international company. He was impressed by Lena's courage and communication skills and offered her a job as a cultural liaison, a role that required English and Portuguese fluency to connect teams across countries. Lena's heart raced. This was the opportunity she had always dreamed of. She accepted the offer, knowing that her hard work had finally paid off. Back in Lisbon, the cafe continued to thrive. Lena balanced her new job with her passion for the cafe and the English classes, inspiring more people every day. One evening, as Lena and Daniel walked along the river, she said softly, "Learning English changed my life. It gave me confidence, friendship, and new dreams. I want everyone to know that it's never too late to start." Daniel smiled. "You are an inspiration, Lena. And this is just the beginning." Lena looked at the stars, feeling grateful and hopeful. She opened her journal and wrote, "Every word learned is a step forward. Every challenge faced is a lesson. And every dream is worth fighting for." She circled 3 words: gratitude,
Growth. Possibility.
As she whispered them softly, she knew one thing for sure. The future was bright, and with English, her world was limitless. Challenges, choices, and heartfelt moments. Lena's life was blossoming in many ways. Her new job as a cultural liaison at the international company was exciting and demanding. She traveled often, met people from different countries, and used English every day. It was a dream come true, but with dreams come challenges. One morning, Lena received news that the company was opening a new office in New York. They wanted her to lead the cultural integration team there. The opportunity was incredible, but it meant moving far away from Lisbon, from her family, Joao's cafe, Daniel, and the life she had built. Lena felt a mixture of excitement and fear. That evening, she met Daniel at their favorite cafe. The city lights reflected in the river as they talked quietly. "I got the offer," Lena said, her voice trembling slightly. "I could move to New York." Daniel smiled but noticed the worry in her eyes. "That's amazing, Lena. But I know it's a big decision." "I'm scared," she admitted. "New city, new culture, new challenges, and my English has improved, but I'm still not perfect. What if I fail?" Daniel reached across the table and held her hand. "You won't fail. You've already overcome so much. English opened this door, and now you just need to walk through it." They spent hours talking about dreams, fears, and hopes. Lena realized that her journey was not just about learning English, but about believing in herself. The next weeks were full of preparations, improving her English, saying goodbye to friends and family, and organizing everything for the big move. Before leaving Lisbon, Lena held a special event at Joao's cafe. She invited all the English class students, friends, and Daniel. She stood in front of the crowd, her heart full. "Thank you all for being part of my journey," she said in clear, confident English. Learning a new language is never easy, but it brings new worlds, new friends, and new dreams. I hope my story inspires you to keep going. There were tears, hugs, and promises to stay in touch. Once in New York, Lena faced new challenges, fast-paced work, cultural differences, and moments of loneliness. But she remembered Daniel's words and the countless hours of practice. She joined a local English conversation group, made new friends, and explored the city with curiosity. One cold evening, Lena walked through Central Park, thinking about how far she had come. She wrote in her journal, "Every step outside the comfort zone is a step toward growth. English is more than a language. It is a bridge to new worlds. I am ready for this new chapter." Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. "Proud of you, Lena. Keep shining." She smiled, feeling the warmth of friendship across the miles. Lena knew that no matter where life took her, English would always be her companion, a key to endless possibilities, new dreams, and a brave heart ready for anything. New York, a city of dreams and discoveries. The moment Lena stepped off the plane at JFK Airport, the city's energy wrapped around her like a whirlwind. Tall skyscrapers reached for the sky, yellow taxis honked loudly, and a mosaic of languages and faces surrounded her. New York was alive, vibrant, chaotic, and full of endless possibilities. Lena's heart raced with excitement and nerves all at once. As she hailed a cab, the driver chatted quickly in English, asking questions about her plans. Lena smiled, responding carefully, knowing her English was good but still learning. Every word felt like a step deeper into this new world. Her new apartment was a cozy studio in Queens, small but bright, with a window overlooking a busy street. The sounds of the city, sirens, chatter, footsteps, became a constant rhythm, a reminder she was far from Lisbon, but exactly where she wanted to be. The next morning, Lena's first day at the company was a whirlwind of meetings, introductions, and new faces. The office was sleek and modern, filled with people from all over the world. She felt the pressure immediately. English flew fast, slang and idioms filled conversations, and cultural references she didn't know came up constantly. During lunch, Lena sat quietly in the bustling cafeteria, listening carefully to colleagues. She took notes on new words and expressions, practicing silently. At first, she felt like an outsider looking in, but she reminded herself of all the steps she had taken to get here. After work, she explored the city streets, marveling at Central Park's green oasis amid the concrete jungle. She wandered through museums, art galleries, and quaint coffee shops, finding comfort in small discoveries. Every new experience was a lesson, not only in English, but in resilience and adaptation. One chilly evening, Lena joined a local language exchange group at a small cafe in Brooklyn. The room buzzed with chatter in multiple languages as people practiced and shared stories. Lena nervously introduced herself in English, her voice trembling but clear. The group welcomed her warmly, and for the first time, she felt a true sense of belonging. Over the weeks, Lena's confidence grew. She made friends from Italy, Brazil, Japan, and beyond. They shared cultural traditions, taught each other phrases, and supported one another's language journeys. English became not just a skill, but a bridge connecting hearts and dreams. Work challenges persisted. Lena led multicultural teams, navigating misunderstandings and helping colleagues understand each other better. She developed new strategies, combining her language skills with empathy and creativity. Her managers noticed her dedication, and she was soon promoted to lead a special project connecting offices worldwide. At night, after long days, Lena often walked the city streets, reflecting on her journey. The bright lights of Times Square dazzled her, but she found peace in quiet corners, like the bench by the river, where she could see the Statue of Liberty silhouetted against the sky. One night, she met Miguel, a charming artist from Spain, at a gallery opening. Their conversation flowed effortlessly in English, filled with laughter and shared dreams. Miguel became a special part of her New York life, a friend and maybe something more. Through ups and downs, Lena's journal remained her anchor. She wrote about her fears, hopes, and victories, always circling new vocabulary and phrases. Adaptation is a journey, not a destination. Language connects souls beyond borders. Courage grows with every step. Her English had become fluent and alive, a tool that opened doors and hearts. Lena knew the road ahead would bring more surprises, but she was ready. New York was not just a city. It was a new chapter filled with discovery, friendship, love, and endless opportunities. And with every word spoken and every dream chased, Lena was writing the story of her life, bold, brave, and beautifully her own. Connections, challenges, and new beginnings. The crisp spring air in New York carried a fresh sense of possibility as Lena's days unfolded with a mix of excitement and challenge. Her friendship with Miguel had blossomed naturally over shared coffees, art exhibits, and long walks through the city's eclectic neighborhoods. Their conversations, sometimes playful, sometimes deep, were always sprinkled with English, Spanish, and laughter. For Lena, Miguel wasn't just a friend. He was a bridge to a world beyond work and language learning, a source of warmth in the bustling city. One Saturday morning, they decided to explore Williamsburg, a trendy Brooklyn neighborhood known for its street art, cafes, and vintage shops. Lena admired Miguel's enthusiasm as he explained the stories behind the murals, the artist's struggles, and the vibrant culture that made New York so unique. Walking side by side, Lena felt the confidence in her English growing as she effortlessly asked questions and shared her thoughts. Work, however, remained intense. Lena was leading a multicultural project team that spanned 3 continents, requiring her to coordinate meetings at all hours. The pressure to deliver results while navigating language barriers and cultural differences tested her patience and skills. Yet, every challenge became an opportunity to learn, to listen more deeply, to express more clearly, and to inspire collaboration. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Lena received an invitation to speak at a prestigious international business conference. The topic? The power of language in global leadership. The invitation was a recognition of her hard work, but also a reminder of the journey she had traveled from shy beginner to confident professional. Preparing for the speech was both thrilling and daunting. Lena practiced tirelessly, working with a language coach to perfect her pronunciation and timing. Miguel supported her, offering encouragement and even helping her rehearse in Spanish and English. Together, they laughed over mispronounced words and celebrated small victories. On the day of the conference, standing before a large audience filled with business leaders, Lena felt a familiar flutter of nerves. But as she began speaking, her voice steady and clear, she saw nods of understanding and felt the power of her message reach hearts across cultures. After the applause, several attendees approached her, eager to connect and learn more. Among them was a representative from a global NGO focused on education, who invited Lena to collaborate on projects promoting language learning in underserved communities. This new opportunity excited Lena deeply. It aligned perfectly with her passion for language and her desire to give back. Back in the quieter moments of the city, Lena and Miguel's relationship deepened. They shared dreams of traveling together, of creating spaces where art and language met, and of supporting each other's growth. For Lena, love was becoming another language she was eager to learn, with patience, curiosity, and an open heart. Lena's journal reflected the richness of this chapter. Connection is the heart of language. Every challenge is a door to new growth. Love speaks in many tongues. With her English, now a confident thread woven through every aspect of her life, Lena was ready for whatever new adventures awaited. The city that never sleeps had become her home, a place where dreams were spoken boldly, friendships flourished, and every word mattered. The language of purpose. Lena had always believed that words held power. Now more than ever, she understood how deeply true that was. Every conversation she had in English opened a door. Every idea she could express clearly gave her more space to breathe, to lead, to belong. New York no longer felt overwhelming. It felt like an extension of her own energy. Fast, full of movement, with stories unfolding on every corner. But despite her growing confidence, something inside Lena began to shift. She had become successful, respected at work, invited to events, praised for her leadership, but a quiet voice inside her kept asking, "Is this the life I really want to live?" She had learned to survive, then to thrive. But now, maybe it was time to create, to shape her life with intention. One evening, while watching the sun set from a rooftop in Manhattan, Lena sat with her journal open, the golden light reflecting on the page. She wrote slowly, thoughtfully. "I've spent years building myself in someone else's world. Maybe now it's time to build something of my own." The idea stayed with her like a melody. She began dreaming of a project, something that would blend everything she loved: language, culture, connection, and art. Inspired by her own struggles learning English and navigating new worlds, she envisioned a space for immigrants and expats, a creative language center. Not a traditional school with grammar drills and whiteboards, but a cozy place filled with books, music, storytelling circles, language cafes, and cultural nights. A space where learning a language meant discovering yourself and others, where people could speak without shame and grow with joy. She called the project the language of us. When she told Miguel, he lit up instantly. "It's brilliant," he said. "It's more than a school. It's a community. It's exactly what this city needs." Together, they began outlining the dream. Miguel sketched visual ideas. Lena wrote program concepts and translated her vision into mission statements and funding proposals, all in English, rewriting every paragraph until it flowed like music. But Lena still worked full-time. Juggling the early stages of the project with her job and responsibilities was exhausting. She often stayed up late, replying to emails, editing documents, or attending video calls with potential partners in other time zones.
There were setbacks.
A promising grant fell through. A venue owner backed out. A proposal was rejected with cold, corporate language that left her feeling invisible. For a few days, Lena felt the familiar grip of doubt tighten around her chest. What if I'm not ready? What if my English is not good enough for business? What if this dream is too big? But then she remembered the girl she once was, the one who sat in night classes in Lisbon, struggling to pronounce through and though. The one who had crossed oceans, not just physically but emotionally. The one who had stood on a stage and spoken to global leaders in a language that once made her feel small. She was not that girl anymore. She was stronger, wiser, and above all, committed. She pushed forward and slowly, doors began to open. A nonprofit with a similar mission in Canada offered mentorship. A retired teacher donated books. A friend of Miguel's knew a small gallery that could host the first workshops. The launch was modest, a pop-up event called Talk, Taste, Share, where people brought food from their country, shared a story in English, and exchanged phrases in their native languages. Lena watched as strangers connected, laughed, made mistakes, and helped each other. She stood at the back of the room, her heart full, the sound of accents mixing into something beautiful. After the event, a young woman from Morocco approached her.
"Thank you," she said.
"I always thought my English wasn't good enough to speak in public. But today I did. Because of this space." Lena smiled and replied, "That's exactly why we're here. Language isn't about perfection. It's about connection." That night, Miguel walked her home. As they crossed the quiet streets, he took her hand and said, "You know, Lena, this isn't just a dream anymore. It's real. You made it real." Lena looked up at the city skyline, glittering like a constellation of human ambition, and whispered, "I think this is only the beginning." Across borders, beyond words. It began with a simple email. A university in Montreal had heard about the language of us through an article published by a language learning nonprofit. The message was polite, formal, but filled with warmth. "We believe your approach could inspire our students. Would you be open to giving a talk and possibly running a cultural language exchange workshop here in Canada?" Lena read it 3 times. Then she stood up from her chair, walked to the window, and let out a long breath filled with 1,000 thoughts. This wasn't just an invitation. It was an expansion, a signal that her message had crossed borders. By now, the language of us had hosted small events in several parts of New York. Lena had formed a volunteer team, and each event brought more people from different corners of the world. Some spoke with fluency. Others barely managed a sentence. But all came with a desire to belong, and Lena gave them space to feel seen. The invitation from Canada was exciting but terrifying. She had never spoken in front of university students before, let alone in a bilingual city like Montreal. What if her English wasn't academic enough? What if her accent made her sound less credible? But Miguel looked at her and said something she never forgot. "The value of your voice is not in how it sounds, it's in what it carries." She packed lightly for the trip. Books, slides, flyers, and her old journal, the one where she'd once written dreams in Portuguese and scribbled vocabulary in English. The flight was short, but Lena felt like she was crossing oceans again. Montreal welcomed her with cobbled streets, signs in French and English, and a winter breeze that kissed her cheeks. The night before the event, she stayed up rehearsing her presentation, correcting tiny errors in grammar and adjusting her pacing. But as she stood in front of the university crowd the next morning, a sea of eager young faces, she felt calm. "Language is not only a tool," she began, "it is a bridge between who we are and who we're becoming." She shared her story, the struggles with English, the mistakes that embarrassed her, and the moments that made it worth it. She showed pictures of the language of us, the food nights, the storytelling circles, the moments of laughter and vulnerability. She ended with a message that echoed in every corner of the room. You don't need perfect English to change the world. You just need the courage to speak, and the kindness to listen. The applause was warm and long. But what touched Lena most were the personal stories shared afterward. A Syrian student who hadn't spoken English for 2 months out of fear, a Brazilian girl who whispered that Lena reminded her of home, and a French-speaking professor who confessed, "Your project reminded me why I started teaching." Inspired by the energy, the university offered to support a local version of the language of us, a pilot program for immigrants and international students. Lena promised to help build it remotely, sending materials, designing the first sessions, and even mentoring volunteers from afar. Her dream had just crossed its first international border. Back in New York, things had changed too. Miguel had been working on a short documentary, and when he showed her the first cut, Lena's heart nearly stopped. It was a 10-minute film called Lena's Voice. It featured shots of her leading sessions, helping nervous learners, laughing with children, listening deeply. It wasn't about her as a person, it was about the impact of safe spaces, of human language, of hope. Lena cried. Not out of sadness. Not even out of joy. but from the deep realization that her journey mattered, that it had touched lives. That night, as she and Miguel walked through Central Park under the pale light of a full moon, she turned to him and said, "You know, I used to think I came to New York to survive. But maybe I came here to find my voice. And now, maybe my voice is helping others find theirs." Miguel stopped and gently took her hand. "And I'm here," he said, "because I found my home in you." They kissed, slowly, naturally, as if the moment had been waiting patiently all along. And Lena knew, love, like language, was something you built day by day. With effort, with courage, with the will to understand. Journal entry, May 20th. English taught me to speak. Courage taught me what to say. Love taught me to listen. I thought learning a language was the goal, but now I know it was just the beginning. Back to roots, forward with purpose. The wheels touched down in Lisbon, and Lena felt her chest tighten. It had been 7 years since she left Portugal. 7 years since she stood at a small airport gate, her suitcase half broken, her English half formed, her heart full of half hope and half fear. Now, she returned not as the girl who left, but as the woman who had built something from that fear. The language of us had grown beyond her imagination. After Montreal, more invitations came, messages from NGOs, universities, cultural centers, all asking one thing: "Can you bring this to our city?" Lena had never planned to go back to Europe so soon. But when she received a letter from a Lisbon-based immigrant support center, she stopped scrolling. The words were in Portuguese, but the need was universal. Many immigrants here feel invisible. Your project could help them speak again, not just in language, but in dignity. She booked the ticket the same day. Miguel couldn't come this time. He had a photography exhibit opening in New York, the first of his career, and she encouraged him to stay. But they promised to keep each other close, even across time zones. Still, as the taxi rolled through the familiar streets of Lisbon, Lena felt a strange emptiness. Everything looked the same: the orange rooftops, the smell of bread in the morning, the echo of church bells, yet nothing felt like it used to. She checked into a small guest house and walked to the square where her first job had been, selling pastries at a bakery. The owner didn't recognize her, of course, but Lena remembered every crack in the sidewalk, every word she couldn't say back then. She whispered a quiet thank you to the past and kept walking. The immigrant center was a modest building painted with murals, hands of different colors, eyes of different shapes, words in many languages. The first workshop had just 12 people. A Ukrainian grandmother who spoke no Portuguese. A Nigerian teenager who spoke 4 languages but felt ashamed of his accent. A Brazilian mother who had stopped dreaming altogether. Lena began with what she knew best: honesty. "I used to think silence was safer. But then I realized silence makes you disappear. And we are not meant to disappear." They listened. Some cried. Some nodded. But by the end, they were speaking, with mistakes, with hesitation, but with pride. In just 2 weeks, the group grew. Volunteers arrived. A local paper published a story. Then a journalist from France called. "Would you consider Paris?"
Paris.
It had never been on Lena's list. Too big.
Too polished.
Too intimidating. But she remembered her promise: go where the silence is loudest. Paris welcomed her with gray skies and golden bridges. The workshop was held in a cramped room behind a cafe, mostly filled with North African women who had lived in France for years, but still felt like ghosts. One woman, Amina, said quietly, "They say we don't integrate, but no one listens when we try to speak." Lena didn't give them a lesson. She gave them space. She let them teach each other, laugh at their mistakes, swap recipes, exchange lullabies in Arabic and French. She left Paris with a journal full of new words and a heart that ached to be heard more. In Berlin, things changed. The German city was colder, sharper, and filled with contrasts. Lena arrived to build a 3-week program sponsored by the Goethe Institute. Everything was more formal: schedules, translations, interpreters. But on the last day of the training, something unexpected happened. A man stood up, tall, around 40, with dark hair and a tired face. He had been quiet during every session. No notes. No smile. He said in halting English, "I was engineer, then war, then refugee, then nothing. But this was first place I feel human again." The room went silent, and Lena remembered why she did this, why she had to keep going. That night, as she walked alone through snowy Berlin, her phone rang. It was Miguel. His voice was warm, familiar, full of longing. "I miss you," he said. "I miss us," she replied. There was a pause. Then he asked softly, "When this tour ends, what's next? For you? For us?" She stopped walking. Her breath fogged the air. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know this. I don't want to build a life apart from you." "Then let's build something together," he said. Lena returned to Lisbon for one final session before flying back to New York. She stood in front of her group, the first group in Europe, and felt something powerful. She had returned to her roots. But she wasn't rooted anymore. She was in motion. A wave. A voice crossing oceans. She closed the session with her usual phrase. "Language isn't just something we speak. It's something we live. And the more we learn it, the more we become ourselves." The room stood and applauded, not out of politeness, but out of recognition. She had come home. But this time, as a woman who had built bridges between worlds. Journal entry, June 12th, Lisbon Airport. "I came back to remember who I was. I'm leaving knowing who I've become. And I'm ready to build a life not just with words, but with love."
Se desejar, o próximo capítulo pode mostrar Lina de volta a Nova York, começando a viver com Miguel, ou talvez aceitando um novo desafio global, talvez no Brasil, na África ou no Japão. Posso continuar no mesmo estilo, ainda mais profundo. Deseja que continue?